Our administration has obviously made it clear that that's not the stance and what we want from the volunteer spirit. You know that I feel the same way. That's a very few number. Man, the passion, energy from our fan base. I've been in a lot of competitive arenas as a player and as a coach. There was nothing better that I've ever been in than what happened on Saturday night.
What's up, guys? Dane Davis here. Shout out to Boogie Bentley Dauber and the Indy Kid over at Talkin VAWLS Network on YouTube. Vols fans, head over to their YouTube channel, Talkin VAWLS Network. Smash that like button and subscribe, baby. Go Big Orange.
Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley.
I'm Dauber.
I'm the Indy Kid.
Got a big time show lined up for you guys tonight. Going to be a lot of fun. NIL, that's the hot topic. That's what everybody has been talking about over the last couple of days. We all know why. We're going to get answers today. We got James Clausen from the Spyre Sports Group. We're going to bring him on here in just a second. And he is going to take our questions, and he said he is down for you guys to fire some questions at him as well. So we'll get into it. Should be a fun little chat. Let's see who's hanging out with us tonight already. We got Backwoods Vol for Life in the house, dropping those custom Talkin VAWLS emojis. What's going on? Culberson44 is in the house. JJ Banks is here. What is up, JJ Banks? Blitz 621 is here. Ed Parker. Who else we got hanging out in the chat? Everybody's starting to filter in. Captain Andrew Crabtree is here. Says, Talkin VAWLS live. Yes, sir. Go Big Orange. Guys, it's going to be a fun one. You guys excited? I know you're excited. I can tell by the look on the Indy Kid's face.
Yeah, boy. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's jump right into it.
Hopefully we can clear some of the muddy water with all this stuff.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about right before we went on air, is that hopefully we can get educated, and educate some of the listeners. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Mr. James Clausen from the Spyre Sports Group. Welcome, my friend. Appreciate you doing this on Friday night.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
So let's jump right into it. And, you know, we're going to get to what the Spyre Sports Group is. We're going to get to NIL. We're going to ask you some questions, those hard to answer, those tough-hitting questions. But first, we want to know a little bit about you. We were talking right before we went live. You were talking about being a 90s kid. And Heath Schuler, tell us a little bit about your background as a Tennessee fan, who you grew up watching. Why Tennessee? That's always the question we ask. Why Tennessee?
Yeah, so I grew up in Marstown, went to school at Tennessee. You know, I still remember one of my first games. I think I was, you know, at 8, 9, 10 years old. Tennessee played Pacific. The game started about, I think, 3 or 4, and I can remember the lights slowly getting more dark, and the lights came on, and man, I was sold, and I knew I was going to go to school at Tennessee, and I went to school at Tennessee, got another degree at Tennessee, you know, started working in the athlete, you know, agent industry right away. Got to work with some former Vols, including Eric Berry. Did marketing for him, along with a bunch of other, you know, former Vols as well. So I've lived in Knoxville, you know, since college. Never left, and this is, you know, kind of a dream scenario for me, getting to do this for Tennessee.
Pretty exciting. Morristown, east or west?
West.
West. Okay. We're all kind of Tri-Cities guys here, so.
As you can tell with our support of Dane Davis there with the the NIL deal.
Yeah.
Let's get right out of the gates here. John Hill in the house drops a $20 super chat. That ain't cheap, guys. Don't embarrass me in front of our friend here. Don't embarrass me. I really don't want to play the clip, but if you guys spend the money, I will play the clip. I really don't want to, but if you do, we'll do it. But John Hill for $20, we appreciate the super chat. He says, here's 20 to get a much needed cornerback. I don't know. Are we supposed to donate the money? I don't know what this is about, but regardless, he says, thanks for the live show in Go Big Orange. Yeah, James, our fan base is pretty excited about this. We'll see if they throw some questions at you as we get into it. Dauber, kick things off here. Let's change gears here.
All right, James, can you give us some background on the Spyre Sports Group? Explain to everyone exactly what you guys do, kind of where you guys started, and now how you're emerging into the whole NIL and that kind of avenue for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Spyre was formed about a year and a half ago. Me and a coworker of mine had been at a previous agency, worked there our entire careers. We started Spyre to really represent, golfers on the PGA Tour. We have one of them right now. We have Scott Stallings still, and that was our focus: recruiting young golfers and trying to get them to the tour. Working with some football players in the NFL as well, just on the marketing side. We followed NIL, knew it was going to be a big deal, knew it was going to change our industry, just because you have a whole group now of players, across all these schools that they're going to be able to do deals. So what does that look like? We didn't know, but we were following it. I think closer to July 1, had the opportunity to have some conversations with some folks at UT. The hard part for any school, including Tennessee, is that there can be no institutional involvement. So Tennessee cannot have a hand in setting up deals, arranging deals, talking to donors about getting involved. So it really has to be led by somebody. And, we're from Knoxville. We've been in Knoxville, really our entire lives. And we knew a lot of people that have businesses in Knoxville across the state. We were familiar with a lot of Tennessee's biggest donors. And so we just started having conversations with them about really setting this up, putting some structure around what we were trying to do, and really see if we couldn't make this a real advantage for Tennessee. And from the beginning, we thought we could. Knoxville's the largest market in the SEC. No offense to Vanderbilt and Nashville, but we have more fans and more alumni in Nashville than they do. We have no statewide competition. So, whereas Alabama and Auburn may be competing over certain businesses in South Carolina and Clemson and some others, we felt like that was a real advantage for Tennessee. And maybe the biggest advantage was our fan base just wants this so bad. Me included. I mean, I've just kept coming back over the last 20 years, and I think we all have. And so it's really harnessing that passion and helping people understand what this is, what's at stake, and how can we all get involved, and how can we move this forward to help Tennessee.
So you mentioned July 1. That was the day that the ball kind of got rolling NCAA wide, right?
Yep, NCAA passed the temporary policy on July 1, allowing all schools to allow their athletes to take part in name, image, and likeness.
And there were some schools that, because of the state regulations, things couldn't begin until January 1 of this year, correct?
No, so some state laws were January 1. Tennessee's was January 1.
Okay.
But the NCAA, I think, realizing that, hey, if states like Florida and Alabama and Georgia are able to start doing NIL on July 1, and states like Tennessee, South Carolina, and others cannot do it for 6 months after that creates a real imbalance. And so the NCAA said, okay, we're going to issue a blanket waiver, and everybody can start on July 1.
Okay.
I saw somebody in the chat talking about presidents and athletic directors wanting regulation. And, you said something there talking about how the school can't be involved. And, I heard when you were on with VolQuest talking about, was it BYU, that there's some different rules there? Like, coming from where you're at, do you think this needs more regulation so that everybody – look, we all know there has been cheating going on in college football as long as we've all been alive. It happens. But do you feel like they need to kind of dial this in a little bit, across the board?
Yeah, well, I mean, the NCAA clearly didn't have a plan for NIL. They had a chance probably for 2-3 years before July 1 to put some parameters around it. They never did. They wouldn't address it. So July 1 hits, and it's almost just mass chaos. Most athletic departments had, Tennessee's probably included, thinking, okay, we've got 6 more months. January 1st is our date because that's our state law. The NCAA says 2 weeks before July 1, it's a go for everybody. And then you've got a mad scramble of, okay, what do we do? What parameters do we put around this? How do we police it? What compliance components do we need in place here? I think, the NCAA, I think, is looking at Congress right now to do something. It doesn't seem like Congress is anxious or ready to do anything on this. But yeah, probably there needs to be some type of more regulations around this, because again, it is truly almost do whatever you want to do, with the exception of just a couple things.
Good stuff. And I like that you said basically there's no competition in the state. We've thrown a little shade down the road a time or two on here as well. And I'm going to come back to something with Vanderbilt after a while involving baseball on that. But right now, if you don't mind, if you'll walk us through the process of NIL, like how does it differ, or does it differ at all for a high school kid versus a transfer portal kid? Is there any difference there? Just if you don't mind, kind of walk us through the process of how that works.
Yeah, well, certainly, if you're in high school, you're playing sports in the fall, you're playing sports in the spring. Most high school athletic associations say that you cannot do any type of NIL. So not until you get on campus or you graduate, maybe you graduate in December and you're going to enroll early in school in January, then there's opportunities at that point to start talking about NIL. For transfer portal guys, really, they're treat them just like professional athletes anywhere, and so they're able to do. They would be able to do deals, really at any time, whether they're at this school or that school, whether they're in the portal and kind of in between schools. They would be. You could do deals with them anytime.
So does that, based on what you said, maybe I read this wrong. So a high school student, when they're being recruited, can they be promised any kind of NIL deal up front, or do they have to wait till they get to campus?
Yeah, so great question. One of the rules that the NCAA has is you cannot induce a player to come to a school. So example would be if you will come to Tennessee, we will give you X. So that's why it's so important, and what we're really working hard to do is create lots of opportunities for this current team. Really invest in these players on the team, and in turn that shows recruits, that shows players that are still in high school that, hey, if you come to Tennessee, you're going to have opportunities. Because what you can talk about is, oh, Hendon Hooker's got all these deals, and Hendon Hooker has made probably close to this amount of money, and look at the deals Cedric Tillman's got, and look at the deals that Byron Young's got. So you can do that, and what that does is that creates the culture that, hey, we're serious about NIL at Tennessee, and if you come here, you're going to have opportunities.
Thank you for Clinton, because I think that's one of the things we talked about beforehand, just educating us. And a lot of the talk I've seen as well, X player has been offered this from X school. And so that is really interesting. Good stuff that you cleared that up. So thank you.
Well, I think it goes back to talking about some type of legislation, how do we get this on an even playing field? Because I think a lot of us fans were confused, and because you see something on social media and then our fan base takes it and they just run with it, right? And the big thing about Texas A&M and having all that money and their recruiting class in 2022, but if you're not allowed to use NIL, why are we running with that narrative? But I think that, again, just kind of doubles down on the whole legislation and getting this thing on an even playing field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's kind of this is the big one. This is the big question, and this is what I really want you to kind of dive as deep as you can with this, because again, talking about this fan base, Swain kind of went in hard on this morning, and it was a great show. Anybody that missed it, I encourage you to go check it out. Isaiah Nair, the kid from Wyoming, had a lot of buzz. He commits to Tennessee, and he starts taking visits, and he's talking about going to Ole Miss, and then he ultimately he ends up at Texas. Now the narrative out there is that, well, Texas offered him the money. We don't have the money. Now, according to other sources, Tennessee had a nice NIL deal in place for Isaiah Nader. We were kind of talking before we even went live. His decision isn't necessarily about NIL. So kind of walk us through the Isaiah Nader thing as much as you can. Again, you get as detailed or, however you want to answer it. But also to address the fan base and the Texas money, the big money in Texas. Can Tennessee compete when it comes to NIL with those big schools in Texas? Because what you said about the SEC and Alabama and Auburn, what about Texas? Can they compete?
Yeah. So, we can talk to players that are in the transfer portal. And we can have conversations with them about current players on the team, deals that they have, opportunities through local businesses, statewide businesses, companies that support Tennessee, conversations about certain individual alumni and what they do and businesses they potentially own. And again, I think with Isaiah, I think he probably just wanted to stay closer to home is my opinion on it. I think when he probably got into the transfer portal, he wasn't sure how much interest that he would have from anybody. He ended up having quite a bit, but I think his intention all along was to stay in Texas. And listen, certainly Texas has got a lot of money. They've put it out there that they've got a lot of money. Texas A&M has a lot of money. Both NIL collectives that they're running have talked about, the war chest idea that they've got. I think Tennessee's fan base is as passionate as any fan base in the country. Tennessee's donors are as committed as I think anybody else is in the country to do this at a level that can compete with those schools. But I would say it's really going to take all of us, talking about this, coming together, because we probably don't have 25 donors that could give us $1 million each. Some of those donors in Texas and the oil money that they've got, they just have a lot of resources that most other schools don't. So they are playing on a really big level. But Tennessee has significant donors as well. And what we have that I think separates us from other schools is this passionate fan base. And so, we created our 1951 club as a way for fans to come into this, to come along this journey with us. We'd be able to provide some opportunities with players and some other things that they could do and partake in as members of this club. But really, it was about getting as many people involved, really across the country that are Vol fans, and really giving this a run at this.
And that's, something else that I had kind of mixed in here was you talk about local businesses and sponsorships and, fan contributions. Can we make an impact? Because like you said, we're a passionate fan base. There are strength in numbers. And we always kind of joke about it on this channel. We got 11,000 subscribers. If every one of our subscribers became a member of this channel for 99 cents a month, all of a sudden we're starting to rack up some money. Strength in numbers. Do you think that we can truly get behind this and make an impact as a fan base? Or are we going, because everybody likes to look at the big money donors, right? They like to say, well, why doesn't such and such give this? And we all know the name I'm alluding to. That's the name everybody goes to. Why don't they do this? How much of a difference can we make? And then also go ahead and kind of plug it now. How can fans get involved in this? You mentioned the 1951 club. What exactly does that mean, and how can we make a difference as the regular fans sitting at home? That's what this channel is, for the fans, by the fans. We're not media. We're not VolQuest. We're not Swain. We have no connections. This is the fan base. How can we make a difference?
Yeah, well, let's just say what if our goal was to get to 100,000 unique contributors? So we got 100,000 people that contribute $19.51 a month. So $19.51 a month. If you do that and you have 100,000 people that do that, that's $2 million a month, and that's $24 million in a year. And then what if we we took that 24 and we went to Tennessee's top 50 donors and said, okay, the fans have done this, let's match it. You all match it. And all of a sudden, we're somewhere between the 40 and the 50 and the $60 million range on an annual basis. And that's where we should be. I mean, that's where Tennessee should be. Look at our history, our tradition, again, our fan base, our passion for this. I think we can get there, and I think we can do that, and that's our goal, and we're going to be as aggressive as we can on that. We've spent the last 6 months traveling across this state, Nashville, Memphis, Chattanooga, Tri-Cities, and then back around all again, Atlanta, Charlotte as well, and talking to as many Vol fans as we can about this and how they can get involved and how important it is. And if we want to have success in athletics, particularly in football, we all have to get behind this. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like NIL, and we want it to be like we remembered it when we were younger. But this is the new era. And if we want to be successful, this is what we have to do to be successful. And again, we created the 1951 Club as part of our NIL initiative as a way to get fans involved. And so, whether it's the newsletter that we're going to send out every month that details deals that we've done, opportunities that, for events in again, all of these major markets across Tennessee, but events that we're going to create, we're going to bring players to those events. Fans will be able to come out, we'll be able to meet these players, we'll be able to take pictures with these players, get autographs from these players, and it's a way that, the players can be more active in these communities, different charities and different events and things like that we can also partner with. But, that's really the goal of the 1951 Club, is to really bring the fan base into this and give them some ownership. And we're all a part of this, whether we are the 1951 a month donor, or we're the donor that gives $1,951 a month. We all have a part, and we all can do something.
Couple of things here real quick. Buck Buchanan says, what's the link? I've got the website shared there at spyresports.com, SPYRES sports.com. I don't have the link in the description right now, but anybody catching this on the replay, I'll have it down there where you can click on it. When you go to your website, you click on NIL Initiative, and you kind of walks through here. It says if you want to make a donation, you have a place where you can enter your name, email address, and an amount. And you can go ahead and make a pledge there, and then follow that up from Wayne Starnes. This is a question I've been answering all day as I was promoting the show. He says, how much of that $24 million you just mentioned actually goes to players?
Yeah, and if you go to the 1951 Club on the website and enter the password attack, all lowercase, that will give you the different tiers. But of the $24 million, 90% goes directly to players, and the other 10% covers our overhead, or if we create events, it covers the cost of renting places, providing different services and whatnot, in order to produce the events that we're going to do. And so, a good example of an event series or camp series that we're going to partner with is Legends of Tennessee. Some former Tennessee players, Chris Treese, Jabari Davis, who are going across the state of Tennessee putting on football camps, and we're going to help them by inserting current Tennessee players into these camps across the state of Tennessee. And it's one of the big focuses of what we're trying to do. Is if we've got a bunch of kids on our football roster from Nashville, we want to get those players back to Nashville and doing things in NIL. And the young kids in those communities, the young kids that are the 23s and the 4s and the 5s, the recruiting class kids, they're able to see the kids at Tennessee getting paid to do things in those communities. And that's slowly how we start changing the recruiting narrative, at Tennessee. Whereas, if you want to go to Ohio State, if you want to go to Georgia out of high school, that's fine. You're probably not going to have any NIL opportunities until you become a really good player at those schools. But if you're a senior in high school, you're thinking about coming to Tennessee, you'll know if you come to Tennessee, you'll have immediate NIL opportunities because you're a Tennessee kid, and we're going to take care of Tennessee kids.
Nice.
I want I'm kind of going into promotion mode here because I tried to look at the 1951 club earlier. I missed the password attack. You guys asking about it. Let's promote some of this because what do you get here? Minister of Defense. If you give the minimum amount, the $19.51 that you're talking about, what do you get for this? And we'll kind of go through each tier and do a little promotion here. I want you guys in the chat. We got over 200 people watching live right now. Hit that thumbs up and don't worry about super chats. Let's get behind this 1951 club. We talk about we want to make a difference. We want to make an impact. We talk about 102-455. This is a way that we can change the game. Don't just go on social media. Don't go on Twitter. Don't go on Facebook and say, we don't have that Texas money, do we? Or talking about Isaiah Nair got that Texas money. Let's get some Tennessee money. Let's put our passion into this. But tell us a little bit about this, each one of these tiers and kind of what you get and what the difference is.
Yeah. So again, this is all still a little bit of a work in progress. We've got a new website that we're working on currently. So everybody, please be patient if you're on there. But the MOD, the Minister of Defense, named after Reggie White's our most basic package. It's $19.51 a month. Membership card. We're going to do a directory so people can see who's giving and you can connect with those people as well. We've got some 1951 Club stickers, a hat, and then again, monthly newsletter, which will give you access to events. You may be able to purchase pre-sale tickets to certain events that we have, that we do in whether it's Knoxville, Nashville, wherever we do the events at. You go down, our second package is the majors package, which has been the one that I think so far has sold the most, but it's essentially it's $1,951, and that's paid yearly. And so I think you can break that down in monthly payments as well. I think what you would get if you do that one versus the MOD package is, you might have some additional pre-sale opportunities to events that we do. We're going to have a memorabilia lottery every month with several items. So, you might win a Hendon Hooker signed football or a jersey or a helmet or Cedric Tillman or which, we're going to have lots of players that do memorabilia with us. Another idea that we had is the quarterly, kind of virtual appearance with a former Tennessee player. So we'll all jump on a Zoom. We'll have a former player. We'll just ask questions and then we'll open it up and people can talk to him. Guys like Heath Schuler have been so gracious to say they would do that. Casey Clausen. So bring back some guys that we all remember and they could talk about things and just, again, give some Tennessee fans some access and some things that maybe they couldn't get otherwise and things that may be easy for us to do as a way to say, thank you for being part of what we're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then, summits and then generals, again, $1,951 quarterly on summits, $1,951 a month on generals. And I think the big one with the generals is, we would do a custom event for you. So if your family wanted to have Hendon Hooker out to the house, play in the backyard with the boys, that's something that you could get done with that package.
Indy Kid, why don't you jump on that and we'll play some backyard football with Hendon Hooker.
Yeah,
I'll wait on you.
Let him come out and throw Kong for the dogs.
There you go.
Something out in the backyard.
There you go. All right, I kind of switched gears there and went into promotional mode. We'll get back on top.
No, thank you.
Okay, so like you've said, like it or not, the landscape of college football has changed and is changing basically daily with the transfer portal, with NIL deals. How do you guys, as Spyre Sports Group, how do you stay ahead of the game? And what do you visualize coming down the road with the way things are right now? How do you see this changing even further? Do you see regulations coming in? I would think there has to be at some point some kind of structure set up for it.
Yeah, I think we still may be a year or two away from some type of more regulations, but I do agree with you that I do think it's probably going to happen. It's probably inevitable. I think one of the biggest things for us is, as Tennessee people, you don't want this just to become a transactional deal where a player comes to Tennessee because Tennessee's going to give him the most NIL, or he likes the NIL situation here better than he does somewhere else. We still want kids to come here because they love the passion of the fan base, or they love the facilities, or they love the tradition that Tennessee's got, or they want to run through the T, and so that's why it's so important for us to incorporate former players into what we're doing, because there's no better advocate for Tennessee football and how special it is than those former players. And so if a lot of kids come here, they come here for NIL, they leave here because they spent so much time with former players, and they've talked about how passionate it is and the responsibility they have to wear the orange jersey and different things like that. So former players are a really big part of what we're doing. I think in creating a culture and just maintaining that culture and making it more than just professional football, because now these kids are getting paid money to be at these schools.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the culture around the program. Guys like Velus Jones, talking about finishing up his career at Tennessee and it being the best decision that he could have made coming to Tennessee. And it is that brotherhood and camaraderie. And, that starts at the top in a locker room with the coaching staff.
Yeah, just from my impressions of this coaching staff, they're really good people. They're people that you'd want to be friends with. They're people that you would, if you had kids that age, you want your kids to play for these guys, because they genuinely care about these players. And I think this past season, you certainly saw that in action. I mean, you saw a team that probably wasn't talented enough to win 7 games, but they did, and they easily could have won. They easily could have won 8, and they maybe could have won 9, or maybe they could have won 10 if a couple balls had bounced differently. But I think you're right. I think the culture is big, and I think that's just going to be something that as more and more athletes are getting paid to be at a school, can you maintain that culture? And I think the coaching staffs will play a really big part in that.
I've got a question. We've primarily talked football. I want to kind of shift to baseball for a second on this with Tony Vitello. The Tennessee program's the best it's been in a long time. Things are going, recruiting's going well. The fan base is high on it. And we talked about Vanderbilt earlier, how Tennessee really doesn't have that much competition in the state. But with baseball, Vandy has the Vandy Fund, which has been something that's talked about for years, how people feel they have maybe an unfair advantage to get recruits down there. Does the potential for Tennessee with NIL, does that even out the playing field with the Vandy Fund? Because it seems like, based on what you guys are doing, what is available to Tennessee baseball players to come there, does that actually help even that playing field to where they maybe do not have that bit of a unfair advantage, so to speak?
Yep, great question, and I think we're almost there and closing the gap and really surpassing Vanderbilt in terms of what we can do from an NIL standpoint for our baseball program. So, we've already had a number of donors step up and say, "Hey, we want this money to go to baseball, and we want every player at Tennessee." Whether I think I don't quote me on this, but I think this is right. They get maybe 11 total scholarships. There's 35 total players on the team, so we're almost to the point now where we're going to be able to put every player on some type of scholarship, whether that's an NIL deal or whether it's a percent of scholarship, but it's going to equal to the cost of attendance at a school at Tennessee. So Coach Vitello is going to be able to go into homes and say, you won't have to pay out of pocket to come to Tennessee, because you look at the last year, look at the last 2 years, based on the deals that we've done. And so I think, again, based on last season, how incredible that was to watch the fans really get behind that team. That was one of the most exciting, Tennessee sporting events I've been to in a long time, specifically the Wright State game. But
Yeah.
again, we are really close to closing the gap on Vanderbilt in terms of being able to provide these type of opportunities for baseball kids at Tennessee.
Fantastic.
And that's a game changer. I mean, that really, not just Vanderbilt, but as much as the SEC's talked about in football of how good it is, it's even better in baseball. It is absolutely brutal in baseball, as we all know. So thank you for answering that. And then I guess the last thing I got is what kind – you talked about the event. You talked about Jabari Davis, Chris Treese doing football camps across the state. What other events, maybe across the board, do you guys have coming up?
Yeah, so, we've talked about, and a lot of this stuff is in the works, but we talked about doing a camp in Knoxville, where, anybody can come, be no cost of attendance to come, and we would have some Tennessee football players obviously headline the camp, which would be a cool experience for them. We want to partner with some local nonprofits to get players back involved with some charities and some things that they could be passionate about. Could be different meet and greets, could be a meet the Vols. So maybe every year we do an event where the new recruiting class comes, and so fans have the opportunity to come and meet them. We'd love to do some type of statewide caravan where it's not with the coaches. It's not like what we've been used to seeing Tennessee do, but it's with the players. And so, we bring them across the state. We've had some good conversations with some statewide companies that might want to come on board and sponsor that, on a big level. And we'll be able to bring, current players, places like Jackson and Clarksville and, Tri-Cities and really all over the state and really create a buzz about Tennessee again. Probably not many little kids from Memphis have the opportunity to meet Hendon Hooker, and that would be the kind of stuff that we want to be able to do again in this world of NIL, where it still can look slimy and it can still look like you're just paying players to do things. We do want to really try to find ways to do meaningful types of events and things where it does make a difference, and kids and student athletes are passionate about what they're doing, and we can plug them into causes and different things where it really does make an impact on these local communities.
Yeah, I mean we've seen that with Jalen Hyatt auctioning off the bowl jersey for charity, and some of the things that Hendon Hooker's done. These guys are taking an opportunity, and it's easy, like you say, to look at the dirty, gritty. Oh, it's paying college athletes. It says a lot about some of these kids that the way they are giving back to the community. There is a big positive here that kind of gets overlooked for, just the paying college athletes. That's the easy thing to say, but. We appreciate you coming on. We told you 20 to 30 minutes. Here we are 40 minutes in. You've been very generous with your time. I think this was educational. I hope our listeners enjoyed it. It's awesome to see a Tennessee guy going to bat for Tennessee. So, like I said, this is a fan-run channel for the fans, by the fans. If there's anything we can do to help you guys, we're here. We're behind you. I love listening to you on VolQuest and on with Swain. Somebody asked me just today in the comment section of a video, do you only listen to Swain and VolQuest? They are the two best when it comes to Tennessee athletics. So, yes, I do listen to what they say. But we're behind you. We're supporting you. Anything we can do, let us know. But we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thanks, James.
All right, have a good one. All right, guys, we're going to continue with the regular show. We're going to talk a little bit about recruiting. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff we've just learned and apply it to what we've seen. But, we got to take a little commercial break. Everybody stretch their legs, stretch their arms. James just mentioned a certain thing, and we just have to.
Rucker, the tying run at first, 1 out, bottom of the ninth. Wright State 8, Tennessee 5. Ball hit high in the air into right field. Going back is Sayre, and Tennessee can say hello, win column. A grand slam in the bottom of the ninth. You can't draw it up any better.
Woo!
Is everybody refreshed now? Everybody ready to go? That put a little energy, a little pep back in your step. All right, guys, we're going to get back into the regular show here. Man, that was fun. Man, he clarified some things. It's interesting to look. You don't know what's legal and what's not because, like I said, it's the Wild West. In the transfer portal, I didn't necessarily know that when a kid went in the transfer portal, you could just start throwing offers at him. But then you start seeing guys like the kid from Florida. You know, those guys are jumping in the portal, seeing what type of NIL deals they get, and then just going right back to the same school just a few hours later.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. It's the landscape, but I like that he clarified the difference between high school and portal. How a high school kid is not supposed to be guaranteed this amount, and we've heard the rumors, whether they're true or not, of certain recruits being offered X amount of money to go to X school, cough, cough, down near the border. So, you know, how much is true to that, how much is not? I'm curious to see where it goes. Where is there? And he said it's probably a year or two down the line with maybe some regulations and stuff. But I've got to wonder when or, you know, who has stretched, if not broken, the rules in regard to this. Because, you know, Texas A&M's bringing in a class like they've never brought in before. And there's a lot of positive there. But the fact of the matter is that, for the most part, Jimbo Fisher underachieves, yet they're still bringing in recruits. So we know there's money. Is it just because of potential, or is there legitimately offers to these kids? I thought that was really interesting that he said that.
Just wait until Boogie Bentley starts slinging that money around.
I just bought a NBA Jam arcade unit. I don't have money for NIL.
You can't hide money.
Buying arcade games. What are you talking about? I'm waiting on the Indy kid to bring Hendon Hooker to the Tri-Cities so we can throw
backyard
football.
barbecue, yeah.
It'd be great. Yeah, man, just sit on the back porch, drink a cold one, and talk to Hendon Hooker. He doesn't even have to throw a football. He can just sit there. Maybe he could read his book to us. That'd be great because we could all we could probably use that. Probably need to hear it.
If we're getting anybody to read us a book, it needs to be Matthew Butler.
That's true with that voice. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Let's talk a little football. The news, man, it's been like all over the place, up and down, you know, talking about the transfer portal. Why isn't Tennessee winning in the transfer portal? And you know, Ballquist has kind of hinted about a reduction of scholarships. So then I kind of went with that narrative. I'm like, maybe that's the case. Maybe we're going to go into 2022 and they're not going to have the room. But now after listening to Swain this morning, it sounds like maybe Tennessee is going to use 2021 as their scholarship reduction because they were 70-some scholarship players in 2021. They're going to say that's our penalty, and we're going to just roll on in 2022 and stick a big middle finger up to the NCAA because it sounds like after the spring semester, this coaching staff is going to hit the transfer portal hard. Any kid, do you buy into that? Do you buy into that's why they've struggled in the portal so far?
Nope. Maybe, but I've said it before. I don't think this staff is as relentless as they need to be recruiting. I just don't. They evaluated well with the 22 class coming down the stretch and finished well. They're getting smoked in the portal right now. Maybe that's by design, but you know, your video and you talked about, you know, is it the right thing to do? I would not have done anything if I were them, because you're a few players away from this being a really good team next year. There is no way I sanction anything on this team. If anything, I'll wait till next year to do it. Because if you add a few top-notch players, whether it's receivers, running backs, obviously they need more defense because the pace they play, they need top-notch players on that defense. They need depth to be able to field a good defense. But there is absolutely no way that I sanction this year. There's no absolute way that I, limit my scholarship, any of that stuff. I don't agree with that, and I feel that they've gone after – they're just getting smoked right now. And I don't know if it's NIL, the Nair thing close to home. But I feel they've got to pick it up a notch because they have basically – the one guy they have gotten so far, it's not even, it seems like he's more depth than anything Mincy. That they've got to pick it up, and I don't think it's all NIL because it goes back to recruiting as well. Had they not evaluated well, that class wouldn't have been ranked as high as it was.
So you think the whole numbers game is just kind of a excuse for the lack of traction currently?
No, not all of it. I think they've got to be picky, but still, I mean, they've gone after a couple running backs. They went after Joseph, the safety that went from Northwestern, went to Notre Dame. They've gone after numerous guys, and they've not gotten them. So I think the numbers are there. I think there's something to it, but I also think they've just gotten out recruited.
Yeah.
And again, I say that I just feel they have to be more relentless. There's got to be another gear.
I think they've been limited on who they've gone after because of numbers, like you're saying, Dauber. But then to piggyback on what Indy Kid is saying, Jared Verse lost him to FSU. Isaiah Nayer's the one that's on everybody's mind. I mean, they lost that one, and you can say it's because the kid wanted to stay there. Whatever. I just don't think. And to go back to the interview we just had, it's not always about NIL. That's the new easy way out for fans. If Tennessee loses a recruit, NIL don't have the money. Where are they at? Where's the big money donors? Where's the Haslams? I can say it now. It's just the three of us. Where's the Haslams? Give us some more money. We need more money. It's not always about NIL. There's more factors to it. But who's the running back you were talking about? Was it the kid from Georgia Tech? Because
there was Gibbs, and then there was Evans, who went to Ole Miss as well. But I don't know how much they went in there, but there was definitely some recruitment and some interest there.
They had a conversation with Evans, and from what I read on VolQuest, after that conversation, Tennessee wasn't interested. I think you're right. They did miss on Gibbs, and they missed on the kid from Georgia Tech.
Well, Gibbs is the one from Georgia Tech.
Not Georgia Tech. Who's the other one? The kid from Wake Forest. I think there was interest there, and I think they missed on him. So,
I mean, if they're going after running backs, they obviously feel they need another guy right now. Because, I mean, we saw it last year where at the end of the year it was basically small and right. So we didn't see Whitehead much. We did obviously Beckwith gone. Now they have a couple of running backs coming in that they like pretty well, but I believe they feel they need the veteran there. And of course they've tried at wide receiver also with Nair. Hadn't heard anything about McCoy, but I'm curious to see where that one goes. They maybe shift their attention there. But, I see people saying they disagree with me on this. The proof's in the pudding. They're getting out recruited in the portal. Maybe they're being picky on it, but, you mentioned Verse. We mentioned Nair. There's others that just no track. They have tried with numerous guys and gotten nowhere with it. There's got to be another gear there. And maybe some of it is NIL. Maybe some of it's they're being picky. But I feel strongly that they've got to pick it up.
I see the chat talking about needing defense. And, obviously we all know that's true. We know this team needs defense. But you just said it talking about the running back position. This staff feels like they need another running back. And it's the same with wide receivers. So many people, I talked about this in the video today, so many people say, well, they don't need a wide receiver. They could throw a guy like Jalen Hyatt, Jimmy Callaway, Jimmy Holiday. It's going to be fine. I don't think this coaching staff has the trust in those guys. I think Jalen Hyatt is close to earning that trust, but I think they want him in the slot. And there's a reason that in 2021, this coaching staff went into the portal and got Javonte Payton. There's a reason for that. And now here we are a year later, and that's the big target. That's what Josh Heupel wants, is a big wide receiver on the outside. That's why, to me, the Isaiah Nair loss, it's huge. It's a huge loss. But go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and similar to the way the running back position played out this year, you had guys that didn't really see the field because I don't think they were ready or they weren't trusted. And then the guys that were on the field kept getting banged up and they weren't healthy all year. And I think that's the big key to looking to the portal for some more depth in that running back room. And like Indy Kid said, depth. That's the big thing, really across the board, but more so defensively. And that's I said that at the beginning of this past season. I'm going to be curious to how the defense holds up with the style of play and the pace that the offense wants to run.
I think for that, and I agree with you. That's why I say depth is extremely important on defense, because we saw. I really feel that as the year went along, they started giving up more and more points. I feel those guys who played a ton of snaps were just gassed.
Yeah,
there was no depth, and that's going to be a key with spring practice, with the off season, and whenever they're able to hit in the portal. With that pace of offense they play, they have to have not only a decent starting 11, they got to have guys they can rotate in and not have much of a fall off for that.
And that's the difference between where Tennessee is and where the upper teams are, is the drop off between your second and third team guys when they come in. It's that being a step late to making a tackle or knocking a pass down. And frankly, that's the lack of depth and the drop off when that depth comes in. That's what we've seen in those close games right now. And to get over that hump, you've got to have to where there's, you're replacing one guy with a guy that's just as good.
Yep. Agree.
Do you think we're blowing the defense? Look, I'm not sitting here saying the defense is great. I'm not saying they're going to be fantastic. But do you think we're blowing it a little out of proportion because of the bowl game? I know they're going to struggle in the secondary, losing Alontae Taylor. This is probably not a popular opinion. I think they're going to be fine without Theo Jackson. I'm excited about Turnage. And maybe I'm basing too much off of that one game that he played. But I think that one game speaks volumes. You step in and you're the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. I know they need help. I know they struggled in the secondary. But also I think people aren't giving Purdue credit. That passing offense is legit. I underestimated them because of who they were missing at wide receiver. I did. But do you think that maybe we're putting a little bit too much on it? I'm excited to see what Juwan Mitchell does. Healthy. What he play? 2 games this year? I feel like he never got off the ground because, he comes in the summer and then gets banged up early and that's it. I'm excited to see Banks and Mitchell out there together, healthy, with a full spring, a full fall camp, a full off-season workout program.
A full year with the same, hopefully no coaching turnover. But yeah, full year with the same coaches, that's going to make a difference as well. I think Taylor will hurt, but I feel Haddon had he did okay in the bowl game. Obviously the safety struggled this year, but maybe with the year they get better. Hopefully, your McDonald's, your Charles can push those guys.
Those are 2 big ones.
Yeah, I think they definitely need some help in the secondary and the portal. I feel like they still need linebackers, or they at least need some more guys to come in. I think if Mitchell, we were excited about him coming in, and it was nothing. Hopefully he can live up to some of that hype he came in with. There's some talk about Banks going to the draft. I don't know if somebody's just reading between the lines on that. I don't see it happen. If Banks comes back, how much better can he get? How much better can Beasley? Does Willis come on? Solemn Page coming back. Thank goodness Tyler Barron's coming back. That would have been a big loss in my opinion. But I think if they can get some depth there, and they need, Byron Young coming back. Hopefully Barron progresses. One of the reasons this secondary got torched in the bowl game, no pressure.
No pressure.
Defensive line was just as bad, if not worse, than the secondary. Unfortunately, the secondary is who got spotlighted on it, but the defensive line was non-existent for most of that game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Byron Young, obviously, he's the one guy that stands out on that defensive line. Can Tyler Barron step up? Can a guy like West, can he contribute early, or Pierce? Can either one of those guys, at least, Dauber, you were just talking about depth a little bit earlier. Can they give you that depth where you can be rotating guys on the defensive line, staying fresh? Joel Certain with a $50 super chat. Thank you for waiting till our friend was gone. I don't have to play the clip in front of him, but $50, that ain't cheap.
Money isn't everything. It's the only thing. And everyone has a price for the $1 Million Man.
Joel Certain with $50. Thank you, Joel. Very generous. He said, I think a lot of these kids are wanting to see some consistency from this program. If we can show we can win without top-tier talent and show that coaches can develop, kids will be flocking to come to town. Hashtag GBO, hashtag missed you guys. Thank you, Joel. That is a very generous super chat. Dauber, how much do you put into that? How important, we all talked about 2021, Tennessee overachieved, big year for the Vols. How important is it to put two together back-to-back where they not necessarily overachieve, but do what they're supposed to do, take care of business, build on it?
That's what you've got to do always. I mean, how many times do we say, just win the games you're supposed to win? Because that's been something that Tennessee's not done of late. You hang around with teams that you should be, taking behind the woodshed. You let App State come to town and push you around and take it right down to the wire. You let Georgia State come into your house and beat you. That's not Tennessee football. And that's where the whole cycle of recruiting and all of that, it plays into it. Success breeds success. So you start winning, you start being consistent. If this offense comes in and puts up the type of numbers they put up this season, next year or this year, how would you not want to come play for it? How would you not want to be in that as an offensive player? I mean, my goodness, that's what's exciting. To see that guys come in and like Tillman, who's had, less than 10 catches his whole career, has the year he has like he just did. That's being coached and developed and having your skill set used.
But how much
exciting.
more does it mean if he does it back-to-back years versus 1 year? I think.
Yeah, it's big. That's like Indy Kid said. The proof's in the pudding. That shows its relevancy, and that shows that it can be maintained. It's not a fluke or a gimmick.
Let's transition to this $5 super chat from Nick Worley. Thank you, Nick. We appreciate the super chat. It says, Indy is spot on. We got to get to work recruiting. If not, Heupel is on for a huge collapse. But I would kind of spin this and say defensive recruiting, because like Dauber just said, who wouldn't want to play in this offense? I think Josh Heupel is going to go out and score a lot of points. And when you look at the class of 22, Indy Kid, when you look at the guys that are lining up to play, who are all the studs? All the studs are wide receivers, Taven Jackson at quarterback. You've got the kid in the class of 23, Ethan Davis at tight end, wanting to come play. Other than that, you got some studs on the defensive line because Rodney Garner is going to do what he does. But can Josh Heupel recruit defense? Because that's what it's going to take.
It kind of surprises me, and it's a good question because I feel that side of the ball has really good recruiters. Yet, I don't know. It hasn't really checked out. I was trying to pull up the rankings here on it, their recruits. But, I mean, with Tennessee, right now, Tennessee's ranked 15th with 20 recruits. Like you said, I'm looking at 24/7 Sports. You've got West. Other than that, I mean, James Pierce, is Joshua Josephs. So they've addressed that defensive line, but where's your linebacker? They've got Desmond Williams. I saw an article with him today. I didn't read it, but he's talking about he has a chance to come in and compete for a starting job, and I agree on that. But that's one thing with Josh Heupel, like you guys have said, I think the offense is going to sell itself. It's going to sell itself for a quarterback. These skilled players to come in. They've got to build that depth on defense. Too deep all around. And that's going to make or break Josh Heupel. They don't have to be a steel curtain defense, but they don't need to be having 50-point shootouts every week either. And, that's going to be a key. And with the recruiting, again, they're 15th, but still that ranks low in the Southeastern Conference. Hopefully, and I agree that, we talked about it before, they started behind the 8 ball with relationships. They come into the game late trying to build them. And they've got to pick it up in state, number one. I'm sorry, I don't care how late you come in. There's no excuse for only getting, one out of the top 20, maybe 2 out of the top 20 in the state. Can't do that. Doesn't matter what. You're the in-state school. You've got to be better than that. But I feel they'll be better for 23. But that's going to be the lifeblood of the program. Since they're wanting to go high school route, we've got to get these top guys in state. And, that's where it's going to start at. But we'll see where it goes. I've still got a lot of questions about this staff and the recruiting, though.
I think it's going to help to put the NCAA crap to bed. And if they come out and they say we're not reducing scholarships for 2022, clearly they didn't self-impose a bowl ban for 2021. If they put that behind them, and then what James just said, being on here, I like hearing that from the Spyre Sports Group, that they want to prioritize Tennessee kids and make Tennessee kids realize, hey, if you come to Tennessee, we're going to take care of you. And I think that's a big part of NIL. And yes, like I said, even with him on here, we all know people are cheating. It is what it is. Everybody's cheating. But I think if you can lay out that foundation and establish that if you come to Tennessee, look what, like he said, look what Hendon Hooker got, look what Cedric Tillman got, look what this guy got or that guy got. I think that will lay a foundation where you can build. We talk about building a wall around the state. I think you could possibly do just that.
It's got to be better in the state. And again, I know they started behind this year, but still, you can't help but look at in-state recruiting and just say that was a huge disappointment, because this was probably the best, if not one of the best in-state classes I have seen in a long time, maybe in all the years I've followed recruiting. And the fact that they struck out, basically, other than Cameron Miller.
But man, you have to argue the other side of that, you have to look at the circumstances. Entering in late, building those relationships late, the investigation, that's all part of that class of 22. But I do agree with you. It's a huge red flag. Can he recruit? We're going to find out. I think that's the big question mark. That and defense. It's the question mark. And it's fair to raise those concerns, but I'm willing to give him a pass on 2021 because of the circumstances.
And you said it before, too. We'll know more next year for 23.
Yep. The class of 23 is huge.
And I know there's a junior day coming up this weekend. Looks like they have a lot of visitors coming in. That made a big difference last year because they couldn't have kids on campus till June.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help when you're already behind the 8 ball. So, I'm not saying they can't recruit. I've just got questions about it. I thought in-state was disappointing. Their evaluating was top notch. Because some of these guys they evaluated at the end, they got these bumps in the ratings. Hopefully their performance reflects that. I think I by no means, I like what the staff's doing. I think that's their next step. And I'm like you, I think we'll see it this year. Again, a big part of it too, continue to show progress on the field. You don't have to win 10 games next year, but maintain, show some progress, and, things will start to work out. But I think these camps, get kids on campus, that's going to make a bigger difference in that regard.
8 wins is my number for this year. 8 wins. I think that's a good, solid season. Evan counts for 5. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. Could recruits be turning away Coach Josh Heupel because Coach Josh Heupel isn't guaranteeing playing time and being honest about having to earn playing time instead.
Somewhat, some
Maybe,
some not.
but I like that honesty factor, because look what Butch Jones got into by promising the world and not delivering. Eventually, lying is going to catch up to you, especially in 2022 with the transfer portal. You know,
I tell you,
it is what it is.
I don't want kids that think they have a guaranteed spot. I want
Right.
somebody that's going to come and work and earn it.
Well, you can't. You know, something I think hurt. Tennessee got negative recruited against big time
Yep.
this year. I seen where Terry mentioned about the Wade twins were worried about the issues with the NCAA. Stoops negative recruited the crap out of Tennessee. Beamer negative recruited Tennessee hard. I'm sure that some other programs did as well. But if they can get this out of the way, that cloud's not over them either. But there's schools that are telling these kids what they want to hear about coming in. They're going to start. They're going to, they're going to hang the moon. But like you said, man, Butch Jones did it. And what happened? It ended up all falling down because next to last team he had should have been in the SEC championship.
You can only hold up that facade for so long.
Yep. You saw what 3 years in, really probably in that second year is when the wheels started falling off. Second year of the big recruiting classes, third year overall of his tenure.
We got 200 people watching live. We got 132 thumbs up. Let's get that thing up to 150. Do me a favor. Smash that like button. It's free. It's cheap. It's easy. If you enjoy what we do, hit that thumbs up. Let me also make a quick plug for the merchandise. You can go to bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. Any and all support. Greatly appreciated. I love these TBA Jam shirts. Maybe after we go off air, I'm going to put on my TBA Jam shirt and play my NBA Jam arcade unit right here in my office, and that'll be fun. Any and all support, though, all jokes aside, we appreciate it. We thank you guys for showing up. It's freaking January. There's nothing going on, and you guys show up for this interview, so we appreciate it. Anything you guys want to say? Any more topics, or are we going to wrap this thing up and take it to the house?
Appreciate you setting that up, man. That was good stuff. Hearing from James Clausen and everything he had to say about the Spyre group and what all they've got going on with NIL. I definitely learned a lot. So
I like the Vandy Fund. I have always on baseball criticized the Vandy Fund. I like that because Vandy in baseball, I know the recruits, it's ungodly some of these classes they get. I mean, a lot of these guys end up getting drafted, but I've always felt that was an unfair advantage. To what extent? But now this NIL, and he answered that for us. That's big as far as baseball goes, and it's going to be big overall. And curious to see where it goes also. But the events, what can they do? Talked about these jersey tees coming out. That's pretty exciting that he mentioned. So the game's changing, and how many years of these athletes, I will say this in their defense, how many years has these schools just made money on top of money off these guys, and they've not seen a penny of it? I mean, good for them that they're getting what they deserve on it. They really do, because, you think of all the NCAA games where these guys are actually on it, but it doesn't have their name. So it's a new age. A lot of stuff was answered, but good stuff tonight, too.
I think the big thing, it just went from 0 to 100, right? It's like you're on an NCAA game. All right, let's make it fair. Let's give these kids a certain amount of money for that, name, image, and likeness. And then it went from that to people rumoring Arch Manning is making $6 to $8 million coming in as a true freshman. And it's like, how do we go from 0 to 100? And I think a lot of people are having a hard time wrapping their minds around that. But it's the new college football. It's like James said when he was on here, you got to adapt because it ain't going anywhere. So you got to adapt. You got to figure out how to capitalize on it and move forward. Eli Kiley, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. I joked about it earlier, but it's true. There's strength in numbers. 11,000 subscribers. If you all join the channel for 99 cents, I'm quitting my job. I'm quitting my job if 11,000 people join the channel for 99 cents a month. You get access to custom Talkin Vols emojis. You can also join the Talkin Vols fan call-in shows. It's also just a way to support, all the content we put up. So thank you, Eli, for becoming a member of the channel. Evan counts for another $5 super chat. Thank you. Evan says, honesty pays off in the long run. I just hope people don't give up on him too quickly. That's a big concern, too. What happens? We're talking about 8 to 10 wins. What happens if he wins 5 games next year? Fan base is going to check out quick. Short leash.
Yeah. I was trying to read something here, but yep, if they got to maintain, and I think the schedule is very favorable next year as well.
It's a great comment.
I mean, one thing that's going to be big though. Got to get Florida.
Yep.
Next year's the year to get them. You're going to have some people, just jump off the wagon a little bit if they don't get Florida.
I'll tell you what, people are going to laugh. I'm worried about that South Carolina game. I am, man. They added a stud running back, and say what you want about Spencer Rattler, it is an upgrade from what they had last year. It's a huge upgrade. And I know Tennessee put it on them, but that game kind of went from, all right, it's going to be a beat down to, all right, let's see what happens. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. Just a reminder, Indy Kid Dauber, they'll be live Saturday immediately following the basketball game, and then myself and the Indy Kid are going to be doing a baseball season preview, maybe not sometime in the next couple of weeks. Just stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed for that. John Hill back with another $10 super chat. You guys are throwing money at us now that the guest is gone. I thought you guys would be asking. I warned him. I was like, they're going to be throwing money out, asking the hard-hitting questions. You guys sat back in silence, but thank you for the super chat. John says, thanks for the show and discussion. Very informative. Yeah, I enjoyed. This was a good one. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. We're going to take this thing home. Appreciate you guys joining us. That's going to do it. He's Dauber. He's the Indy Kid. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.
How